Am I recording? It's been Chaz back again with another video. This time around, 1934 World Cup, last 16, part 2, or let's say I put them in a group of part 2. So this time around, I'm going to focus on Czechoslovakia, who went up against Romania, and Switzerland, who played the Netherlands. Switzerland and Netherlands were two nations that made their debut at the World Cup. So that was one of only two fixtures where both nations made their debut. The other one was Hungary and Egypt. And the game between Czechoslovakia and Romania. Romania, obviously one of the original 13 nations to compete at the first World Cup in 1930, making a long trip from Romania to Uruguay, and got Czechoslovakia, who end up performing great in this World Cup, reaching the finals where they took on Italy. Alright, so Czechoslovakia, Romania, and Netherlands, Switzerland. So we'll be heading up again to the San Siro. By the way, the match between Switzerland and Netherlands actually took place in San Siro. That was the first of 3 matches at the 1934 World Cup that did take place in the San Siro. Alright, so I'm going to head up there right now. One last thing, I don't think I mentioned it on my last video, or I briefly mentioned it a little bit. Unlike the 1930 video I did, 30s video that I did with the World Cup in Uruguay, benefit I had again was the fact that all 3 stadiums were right next to each other, all in the same city in Montevideo. This time around, the World Cup in 1934 took place in 8 different stadiums in 8 different cities. So because of that, I don't have the time or resources to go to all the stadiums, so I decided to just pick Milan and Rome. So yeah, so today's my last day in Milan, and tomorrow I should be heading up to Rome. Anyway, so right now, straight to the San Siro to discuss those 2 games I mentioned. Fine, bye. I missed out some stuff. I should have mentioned. Okay, so quick things about all 4 nations mentioned: Czechoslovakia, Romania, Netherlands, and Switzerland. Only one of these nations do go on to host in a World Cup. That's Switzerland. They hosted the 1954 World Cup. That's the first World Cup to take place in Europe after World War II. Switzerland do well in that World Cup, reaching the quarterfinals, which has been their best position at a World Cup, the furthest they've been. Netherlands and Czechoslovakia, both nations have been to the World Cup final multiple times in this case. Czechoslovakia did it first in 1934. With that said, between them they've reached the World Cup finals, Netherlands and Czechoslovakia, 5 times. But they both never won it before. And finally Romania, the furthest they've done, I think they may have reached the quarterfinals once, I can't remember, or the last 16. Anyway, thanks for watching, appreciate it, and now on to the San Siro.
Okay, recording. I ain't gonna lie, I am quite tired. I had 1 drink and that one kind of put me to sleep a bit. Well, I'm back again, still recording down here in the San Siro. Gonna talk about 2 other matches that took place in the last 16, or the round one. See, I think the reason I call this round one and not the last 16, because the last 16 to me means that there was like a group stage before that, or at least a round of 32. By the way, the 2026 World Cup coming up would be the first World Cup to have a round of 32. But yeah, that's how I see it. So I'm not really going to call it a last 16. Let's just call it round one. Anyway, we had Czechoslovakia going up against Romania here. And that game finished in a 2-1 win for Czechoslovakia. Good win for them. Just a couple of things I mentioned first. The referee of this game, John Lagunus from Belgium, he was the referee for the 1930 final between Argentina and Uruguay. So yeah, he's safe, was able to ref this game between these two nations. But before that, I should mention a few things. Czechoslovakia making their debut at the World Cup. With their debut, by the way, other than Italy, they had a great debut, managing to reach it to the final, becoming only the second team to become the runners-up of a World Cup. I mentioned those in other videos. How they got here, though, is that they beat Poland, and that's supposed to be a two-legged sort of tie, and that was supposed to be a home and away game. Czechoslovakia won first, and then Poland withdrew, allowing Czechoslovakia to qualify automatically. They won the first game, as mentioned, and Poland withdrew, so no second match. That's how Czechoslovakia qualified for their first ever World Cup. Romania, on the other hand, were in the same group as one of their original 13 counterparts, Yugoslavia. It's an interesting one there. But Romania drew with Switzerland. Switzerland was another team in their group. They drew with Switzerland, and then they had to play Yugoslavia, and they was able to win 2-1. Switzerland and Romania ended up in 2-2, and even the game between Yugoslavia and Switzerland ended up in 2-2. The final game between Romania and Yugoslavia, that one ended 2-1. It could have been 3-2 draws. If that was going to happen, there would have been replays. I'm assuming so, but lucky enough for both Romania and Switzerland, that didn't happen, and that's how Romania qualified for their second World Cup. I tried to look it up. I'm not sure if King Carol II of Romania, if he this time around picked the team for them. I'm not sure if that happened or not. I need to look more deep into that again. But yeah, that's how Romania qualified. So Romania and Czechoslovakia end up playing each other. This another stadium that got renamed. It got renamed a few times. Originally the Stadio Littorio, then renamed the Giuseppe Grazer. Okay, it's interesting. He was named after a player that played for Gran Torino. Now, Gran Torino, there was an air disaster, another plane crash that happened in 1949, called the Superga air disaster. Unfortunately, there were no survivors. The whole team was killed in that disaster. Unfortunately, the stadium that the team Tristina, they play there now. I would also say that because of the loss of those players, it may have cost the Italian team in 1950 and that's probably why they didn't have a good World Cup in 1950, because of loss of many players. So sad tragedy. But that's where the stadium where Czechoslovakia and Romania did play against each other. I mentioned Czechoslovakia did win that game 2-1. First goal. Again, this has seemed to be a common theme with the nations that were part of the original 13. By the way, all of them lost. Just mention that all 6 teams that competed at the first World Cup and the second one, all 6 of them were knocked out in the first round. So Romania, and quite a few of them lost after being a goal up, or leading basically. Romania being one of them as well. They were leading 1-0 against Czechoslovakia. Took that into the second half. A goal scorer was Stefan Dobe, who scored twice in the qualifying rounds himself. Actually, his goal was a winning goal against Yugoslavia. Alright. Second half. Antonin Puck became Czechoslovakia's very first goal scorer, as mentioned. This is the very first World Cup that they've played in, and he became their first goal scorer. And then Old Rich Nejedly scored the winning goal for Czechoslovakia. That is one of 5 goals he does eventually score in the 1934 World Cup, which made him the top scorer of this World Cup. That's a good win for Czechoslovakia, a great start for them. That's how they managed to go through to their first quarterfinals at the World Cup. Romania themselves, they had a couple of players that did play in the... They only had one player, my bad. Interesting thing about him, Rudolf Berger. He was one of few players, a couple of players, that played in all 3 pre-World War II World Cups. So, interesting fact about him. So he qualified. So he got into the team, and for Romania, fortunately, they didn't win. They did replace their head coach. I should mention head coaches a lot more, especially coaches that from the original 13 teams, managers. Joseph Erdick replaced Kostel, who was their manager, the head coach in 1930. I think he had a lesser role this time around. I don't think he completely got axed and that, kicked out. But I think he became more of an assistant, if I'm not mistaken. Just a few more things about Romania quickly. They do return to the World Cup again in 1938, as mentioned, but don't compete till 1970, and again 1990, where Italy do host the World Cup again. The 90s were probably the best time for Romania at the World Cup history for them, competing in 1990, 94 and 98 respectively. So good World Cups. At least the 90s were a good period in time for them. Since 98 they haven't competed at a World Cup again. Alright, I spent a bit of time on that. I don't mind, it's very important facts about that, especially about the 1949 air disaster that killed many players for Grande Torino. Alright, or Torino. We're going to move on to, I guess, the last game, at least in this area, Milan. This game actually took place here though, So I kind of would have liked to have gotten inside. Stadium tours, or getting into the stadium. It's at 5 o'clock, I believe, is when you have to. Pretty sure I was able to save that last video. Is what I was mentioning, the match between Czechoslovakia and Romania. I hope I managed to save all of that. But my battery on my camera died on me again. So I really forgot to charge. Well, I did charge it, but I needed to get out. I needed to start filming because I actually am running a little bit behind. Anyway, we're going to discuss the last game. At least the last quarterfinal game here, because this game actually takes place here. So that's the Netherlands. They took on Switzerland. So yeah. Switzerland managed to qualify. Mentioned they qualified with Romania. Switzerland didn't actually win any of their games. Both 2-2 draws they had against Romania and Yugoslavia, but it was enough for Switzerland to qualify, along with Romania, as mentioned. Netherlands, on the other hand, they qualified with their neighbour Belgium. Netherlands were phenomenal in their qualifying, defeating Irish Free State, which again would eventually become the Republic of Ireland. They defeated them 5-2, and then they've defeated Belgium 4-2. So it's really good wins for Netherlands there. Unfortunately for them in this game, they didn't manage to carry that through. They were defeated by Switzerland 3-2. Right. And Switzerland were leading. Leopold Kielov became Switzerland's very first goal scorer at the World Cup. Should mention as well that this game between both teams is one of only 2 matches that had no nation that competed at the very first World Cup. The other game was Hungary against Egypt. All right, so Switzerland were leading 1-0. Then Netherlands managed to score, equalise themselves. Smit became Netherlands' very first goal scorer. So there you go. Both nations managing to have a very first goal scorer at a World Cup. And now Kielov scored again for Switzerland, making it 2-1. So making it 2-1 for Switzerland. And Switzerland scored again. Bauglong made it 3-1 for Switzerland, and that's pretty much how they defeated Netherlands. Netherlands do get a goal back. Venti scored for the Netherlands, but it wasn't enough. And they were knocked out of the 1934 World Cup. Both Smit and Venti both did score in those big wins for Netherlands during the qualifying. It's a tough game. It wasn't enough for the Netherlands. And they were knocked out. The Netherlands do qualify for the next World Cup in 1938. Yeah. They qualify for the 1938 World Cup. But this is interesting. I didn't actually know this. I didn't know this till I was looking it up today. It kind of surprised me. Though Netherlands do qualify for the 1938 World Cup, they don't return to the World Cup again till 1974, where they reached the final and they played Germany, or West Germany at the time, where West Germany was the host. And the Netherlands became the very first nation to lose back-to-back World Cups finals, because they lost to Argentina in 1978. Again, Argentina were the hosts of that World Cup. Very unlucky team. And I guess this is a fact with them too. I might as well mention it. They are the only nation to ever compete at 3 World Cup finals and not win one of them. So yeah, a very unlucky team. They've had some of the greatest teams I could ever say. Personally, I thought the 70s, looking it up, the 70s Argentina, 70s Netherlands team, brilliant. So both 74 and 78. Surprised they didn't qualify in the 80s. They had some good teams in the 80s. And that 98 squad was brilliant as well. Well, they've been unlucky, and of course 2010. Well, yeah, that's Netherlands. Well, I guess I'm done. This is at least the halfway through the last 16 games, and I mentioned at least. I'm sorry, I mentioned that at least 8 of the 16 teams and 4 of the fixtures. I guess the next time I'll talk about the next or the round of 16. I think I'll be in Rome then. I'm gonna come down here again tomorrow, discuss 2 quarterfinal games, one which took place here, and the semi-final game that takes place here, as well as the third place playoff. And anyway, I'm done. I'm gone. Thanks for watching this, and I appreciate it as usual. And bye.